This is day 2 of my limited budget ambient vegan challenge. Here's a quick recap of the rules, in case these rules don't make sense to you or you're wondering what these rules represent. That's all explained in day 1. The short version is they don't represent anything other than a weird shaped artificial problem that I have set myself to solve, because solving problems is stimulating. Anyway, let's crack on with day 2. Day 2 breakfast is going to be a stuffed pancake. I've got this oat flour that I reserved from yesterday. And we've got these jelly ear fungus that I picked when we went out. These have been soaking overnight now. And if you want to see where these actually came from, watch the end of day 1 video. When I picked these were just unpromising little crispy shreds of what looked like nothing. And in water they just rehydrate in a few minutes. But if you soak them overnight, they rehydrate all the way and they end up with these ear-like jelly things. So yeah, I think hopefully you can see why this fungus is called jelly ear. It really does fit the name. Anyway, just going to pat those dry. Sometimes these have a little bit of a woody bit at the stalk, so we just need to watch out for that. We'll just find those first. Yeah, there's one, see there. There's a kind of woody bit which is not worth eating. This fungus used to have a common name that sounds a bit like a slur, and to be honest might well be a anti-Semitic slur, so I tend to call it jelly ear. A lot of people have tried to explain that away by saying no, it's called Judas ear, because Judas apparently hanged himself from an elder tree. I don't think it's established that that's where the common name for this fungus came from, so, and I think jelly ear is a perfectly adequate name for this. In fact, if anything, it's very apt. So that's what this is called. But in some older books you'll find this called Jew's ear. The texture of this fungus is really quite weird. It really is like jelly, but it's like crispy jelly, so it's got like a layer of jelly in between 2 layers of thin rubbery skin. It feels like rubber bands. When we eat it, it's kind of a bit like seaweed. It's got that kind of crispy rubberiness, which is, it's got an interesting texture. Not got a lot of flavour, but texture-wise, quite interesting. So a little bit of oil from the jar of peppers. We'll get those jelly ear fungus in there, because they're quite wet and they'll spit if they're dropped directly into really hot fat. I'm just going to let those kind of sizzle away very gently there for a few minutes while we prepare the pancake batter. Pancake batter is really going to be very simple. Oat flour. I'll put in most of that oat flour. I'm going to just save back a tiny bit in case I overdo the water and need to thicken it. Tiny pinch of salt, little splash of water. And I'm just going to add enough water to make a kind of loose batter, which is probably about that much. And this will thicken as it stands. In fact, I think that probably is a little bit on the thin side. You can hear those mushrooms popping away on the other side of the kitchen. Yeah, that will thicken as it stands, and it's thickening actually as we speak. Right, just going to leave that to stand for a moment while we finish off those mushrooms. Those mushrooms, they don't change much when they're cooked. Wow. They do like to spit. So we'll just reserve those out. We'll leave the pan a little bit oily because we're going to cook the pancake directly in that. And then in with this pancake batter. And before that sets, now I can turn it down a little bit. We'll just let that fry. Okay, it is moving. Very soft, so we'll just be careful. Really soft, and I've already torn it a tiny bit, so you've got to be careful here. I'm going to flip that over. I'll just incorporate that back in. So that's going to be the inside now. I'll have some of those mushrooms in there. A little bit of my barley risotto from yesterday as well, just for kind of flavour and texture. We have a few strips of this grilled pepper. And I think that's all I can actually fit in there without it falling apart. Let's get the untidy end tucked in so it looks a bit more pretty. There we go. Right, back in the frying pan and we'll get that crispy. While we're waiting for that to cook, I've also got this, which is the soup concentrate stuff that I left over from yesterday, and it's actually set like egg. So I'm going to try something. I'm actually going to try turning that out. So this is just Bombay mix cooked with water. I'm going to fry some slices of this and see what we get. It might just dissolve, so I'm going to put it up. I'm going to space it away from the pancake. If it dissolves, I'll just scrape it out of the pan, I think. Let's try with one piece. Well, it's not melting. Let's get a couple more in there. Yeah, they are falling apart a little bit, so I think we might just stop that experiment. Well, actually, it's going to scramble a bit like eggs. It is melting now and going a bit sticky. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw those mushrooms in with it, the remaining jelly airs. That'll give it a bit more oil. That's good. It's starting to take a little bit of colour on there now. It's starting to toast a bit on the outside. I don't think it's going to go any more brown than that. So, only two things on the plate there, so we'll just add a bit of beetroot, I think. Possibly the strangest breakfast I've sat down to for a long time, but I know all the things in here are going to taste nice. A little bit of seasoning them. So this is a stuffed oat pancake, scrambled chickpeas and beetroot. Let's have a look inside this pancake to start with. Well, can I even pick this up? Yeah, kind of. That's nice. Barley isn't the most interesting grain to cook with. If I'd had some more of that hogweed, that would have been nice in there. Some sort of green vegetable in there would have been good. The texture of those mushrooms is interesting enough to kind of rescue that. Scrambled chickpea. Remember, this is the Bombay mix soup yesterday that is set, and I've just reheated it and scrambled it. Let's give that a taste. If you didn't tell me, I would have assumed there was egg in that. That's quite spicy because it was made with the Bombay mix. The earthy sweetness of the beetroot goes really well with that. Going to be honest, I think that pancake could have been more interesting than that, but I think actually all that really needed was some crispy green vegetables in there, so more of those hogweed shoots would have been perfect. Anyway, I've now got a ton of editing to do on the day one footage. Then a bit later this morning we'll go out and do some foraging, and then we'll have lunch. Right, here's a plant I need today. This down here, at the moment only growing as a very low carpet, is called corn mint, and it is a form of mint. And mint goes very well with peas, so I'll pick up a few sprigs of this from somewhere at the back there. There's a nice piece. There we go. So, corn mint. Right, this is actually the same elder tree I visited yesterday. I'm going to take a couple of bunches of flowers off of here. So we'll look for really nice flowers. You can see these aren't quite open yet. These have been open a while and they're starting to fade. So what I'm really looking for is the ones that are still sort of slightly pale green. And I'll just cut that and take the whole bunch. I'll give that a little shake, just to dislodge any bugs. You can see the pollen coming off of that. Just to dislodge any bugs that are on there so they can find a different flower. And one more. Obviously need to make sure we leave some for the bees. That's not a problem with a tree like this that's flowering so copiously. I think we'll have this one here. Right, so in this field here, I can see over there all those sort of orangey red flowers. We'll have a look when we get a bit closer. Right, so this plant here with the reddish flowers that are in sort of sticky up spikes like that, this is sorrel. So somewhere down here, if we're lucky, yep, here we are. So down here there's some nice leaves of sorrel, a little bit bug eaten. So there's some really nice leaves down there. Going to pick some sorrel. It's got a nice sort of lemony acidic flavour. We'll use that in a salad later on. And then also here we've got some red clover. I walked right past it on the way in because I was looking at the sorrel over there. We will definitely have some of these red clover flowers, but again we'll pick flowers that are nicely open, looking really nice and fresh. Just a few. These can be used as garnish on salads, but I've got an idea for something a bit different. Actually, there are a few dandelions still about, so I'll have a couple of those as well. It's going to seem like I'm using this stick blender a lot on this challenge, and I am. So, I'm going to try blending this dry because I want to try to make flour. If that doesn't work, I'll blend it with a bit of water. That was a terrible idea. Okay. So I will blend it with a bit of water. I'm trying to make a batter that I can use for frying here, and I think this will work. Tiny bit more water. Right, that's certainly blended enough, but it might be still a bit on the thick side. We'll see. Right, so that's a sort of a batter. I need to clean up because I will need this again. While I'm doing the next bit, I'm just going to push those elderflowers down into the batter before that batter really thickens up anymore. I'm just going to push them in there so they can get a coating. And I don't think this will take very long to cook, but we need a good bit of oil in the pan. Might as well go for it because I think this is the last time we need a decent amount of oil today. Okay, and then these elderflower fritters, into the oil, and I'll just make sure they spread out a bit. Same thing with those dandelions and the red clover flowers. Right, I think if I take those any further than that, they're just going to burn. So I'll get them out onto a piece of kitchen paper towel. Okay, I have a feeling this is not going to be one of the recipes that we look back on with fondness, but never mind, let's crack on. Okay, for these fritters we need a dipping sauce. So in here I've got the prunes we soaked yesterday, I've got some red peppers, and I've got a piece of red pepper, a piece of yellow pepper, I've got some salt and pepper, lots of pepper. Chili would be better, pepper's what we got. And good old stick blender again. Taste for seasoning. Yeah, it's all right. Okay. Right, let's get to the table. Okay, so wildflower fritters with plum and pepper dipping sauce. This has not gone as well as I hoped. I kind of hoped this would be lovely puffy batter fritters, well, and it just hasn't. I don't think, maybe I didn't blend this enough. Maybe that cooking of the blended chickpea flour is the key step. Anyway. That was a clover flower, by the way. So what have we got here? So let's take a piece of elderflower. Here, that's a chunk of elderflowers. Gone a little bit soggy. Tastes kind of gingery. That sauce is quite nice. So yeah, visually, it's a bit of a mess. Did not turn out how I expected. It tastes all right though. So I think conceptually this was all there. In execution, not so much. Still, there's always dinner, isn't there? Right, for the recipe I'm making this evening, I want to get some ground elder And over here in this bit of undergrowth looks like a good place. It's kind of all overgrown. I can tell nobody's been in here, so I'll have a rummage around and find some really nice fresh young leaves underneath here. Right, camera off while I do that. Nice little bunch of ground elder leaves, or also known as goutweed. Let's give those a nice wash and then we'll chop them up. But first we've got some work to do. For dinner this evening I'm going to try to make a sort of a flan. So I need to make some pastry, which I'm going to do with oats, since that's what I got. So those are going to go into the big food processor, along with, for colour more than anything else, that last piece of yellow pepper. Actually, it's not the last piece. There's still some left in the jar. That was quite good value, that jar. We'll have a little bit of the oil, and also some of my leftover wild marjoram from yesterday, which is kind of withered and wilted, but that's fine, and some thyme as well. Still have a few bits of that left over. So I'm going to blend that dry to start with, and then we'll just add enough water to bring that together into some sort of a dough. Just a little splash of water in there. Okay, I can see that starting to clump up now. So I'm going to try and roll that out into a sheet of pastry, or something like that. This is a bit like the crackers we made with the beetroot, but for some reason it's not sticking together as well as it did for that. These non-stick sheets are really good for this sort of thing because they really don't stick to things. I know that sounds obvious because non-stick, that's what non-stick means. But yeah, you get the idea. What I'm saying is they're good. What we have there is hopefully a sheet of oaty dough, which we've got to use to line this little pie dish. First, that's going to be oiled. Really don't want it to stick, so I'm going to liberally oil this, and some of that oil will obviously just soak into the crust. Here we go. And then I'm just going to allow that to, oh gosh, it's really brittle, as well it might be. So I'm just going to press it down around the edge here to make a nice neat crust. I'll tidy up the mess on the worktop in a minute. That's all I really need. I'm just going to put that in the fridge so that firms up a little bit. These remaining wild mushrooms I'm just going to clean and slice and get in the frying pan. These are, if you didn't watch yesterday's episode, these are Dryad Saddle they're called. And it's a wild mushroom that's available in springtime. People say it smells of cucumber. I think it smells a bit like St. George's mushrooms. It's a bit sort of mealy, fresh smell. I'm just going to chop off a bit of that base because I think that was a bit woody. Confession time, those green peas and green split peas that I separated out of the pulses on day one, I had the intention of cooking these. They've been soaked overnight. I had the intention of cooking them and trying to make something like mushy peas. It's just not happening. I can't find a way to cook a small amount of peas without just burning them. So I'm giving up on that. I'm admitting defeat here. That was going to be a side dish. I was going to have mushy peas as a side dish. We'll have to think of a different side dish. One of the things I found particularly good on day one was that how that Bombay mix transformed into the soup. And while we were doing that, I noticed how similar it was to egg in both consistency and the way it sets. So I'm going to try to replicate that today. So I've got some Bombay mix in here with water. I'll just take that bit out. It's a bit too toasty. And I'm just going to boil that first and then blend it down, and that's going to be my egg filling for the quiche. Mushrooms are cooked. I'm just going to set those aside and let them cool down. It's getting a bit late in the season to pick ground elder, but for what I'm intending to use this for, it will be fine. So I'm going to make sure I don't have the stems. And I'm going to chop it up, and it's functionally the same as flat leaf parsley. As I've laboured, a point that I've laboured in many videos, and I'll do it again here, is when you're foraging vegetables, you need to be very, very certain that you've identified what you're looking at. Because especially with this particular botanical family, Apiaceae, the carrot family has got some delicious vegetables in it and some deadly poisonous things like hemlock in it as well. So you need to be really sure that you're looking at what you think you're looking at. Right, the Bombay mix has cooked which is just a weird thing to be saying. It's stick blender time again. So this time I really do need to blend this very fine. Right, that's going to go back into the pan, and we're just going to heat that to set it a little bit more. I've got my parsley in there, by the way, now. But if you're wondering why I haven't seasoned this, I can only imagine you've never tasted Bombay mix, because Bombay mix is really quite salty, as well as usually being quite spicy. What I need to do now is assemble that into my flan dish. I can't believe the camera wasn't rolling. So what I've done, that chickpea mixture's gone in there. I put a layer of it in there. I put the cooked foraged mushrooms in there and another layer on top. Could possibly have had a little bit more filling, which is a bit of annoyance, but I've got some in the fridge that I've got left over from yesterday's soup. So, same thing from yesterday. It looks slightly different, but it's not. I'm just going to mix that up to a paste. Maybe I should warm it first. Much better. We've got a kind of smooth mixture now. So just put that on top. Now I've got to bake that in the oven. And I'm going to put that in at probably 180 for at least half an hour. Right, that was actually 45 minutes. But it looks pretty good. It's still soft in the middle. It's developed a sort of crust on it, and it does look like the pastry has cooked. So I'm going to let that cool down a little bit before we try and do anything with it, because it's still piping hot at the moment. I'm going to let that cool. Hopefully the filling will set a little bit. Right, that pie is now cooled down. It's still warm, but I think we probably ought to just see if it will come out of the pie dish. Feels like it's going to. Yep, let's just have a look. Yep, so that's a cooked crust. I'm going to get that on a wire rack just because that pastry needs to dry out a tiny bit first. And my plan to make mushy peas to go with this did not come to fruition. So I still have some beetroot left. So I'll make a little salad. It is going to be mostly beetroot, but I've got some sorrel leaves and I've got some yellow pepper left. Let's just find, some of these have got a little bit of a unpleasant, tough, rough bit at the stalk end. And I'm just going to cut this beetroot into kind of sticks. It's lucky that I really like beetroot. So these sorrel leaves, I don't need the stalks, I'm just going to have the leaves. A little wash. That can go into my bowl of beetroot. And then finally I've just got a few pieces of yellow and red pepper left. So I might as well use those up. So I'm just going to chop those into strips as well. Again, that can go into the bowl there with the beetroot. Well, I think that looks all right. So the big question is, what is this pie like on the inside? Well, not quite the right colour, but it's set in the middle and it looks kind of like a quiche. So I'll cut that into quarters. Well, I think that actually looks all right. Let's get that to the table and give it a taste. And just in case that pie is a little bit on the dry side, I've got some of my dipping sauce left over, the portion I didn't actually dish up. So I've got a kind of ketchup to go with it as well. Okay then, so I'll start with a couple of pieces of this pie. Right, well let's taste this salad anyway with the sorrel. Make sure we get a bit of sorrel, a bit of beetroot and a bit of pepper. There's a little bit of acidity in the peppers anyway because they were pickled in vinegar, I think, before they were preserved in oil. But that sorrel just freshens and brightens it up a little bit. That's really good. Okay, the pie. So the filling's definitely set. I'd say it looks a little bit more pasty than egg, but it is kind of bouncy. Taste test. Okay, you know you're eating something made out of chickpeas. The spicing in that Bombay mix means that despite not adding any seasoning really to this, it's perfectly seasoned already. Right, well, I'm going to try it with a bit of this kind of fake ketchup. This is made of just plums and peppers. Let's give it a try together with that. That's actually really good. The crust is a little bit coarse, I would say, because it's made of oats, but quite nice. And as a pastry, it's got a snap to it. Now somewhere in there is the ground elder, which is kind of lost in there. And in fact the mushrooms aren't really very dominant either. But that's okay. As a kind of collection of flavours, it works really well. Well, I'm definitely going to eat the rest of that. And I think this Bombay mix has got potential as a kitchen ingredient that needs and deserves further exploration. Anyway, in a moment we're just going to wrap up and I'll score each of these meals individually. Okay, it's actually the morning after day 2. Let's have a quick recap of what I've got left here and then we'll score and reflect on the meals. So I've got a little bit of oil left from my pepper jar. I did have 2 handfuls of Bombay mix left, but I ate them late in the evening on day 2, just as a snack. I've got, I don't know, probably about 4 or 5 prunes. I've got about a cupful of the barley and lentil soup mix, and I've got about 1/3 of the bag of oats. So there's still food left, and of course there was also some of the cooked seasoned barley in the fridge. That barley that I cooked in the slow cooker really swelled up. And I did have a nibble on it in between meals as snacks, but there was actually some left over at the end of day 2. And yeah, that was quite a filling ingredient. Self-assessment time. I'm going to score the 6 meals that I cooked for myself. This is very subjective, and if you've got a different opinion, do let me know in the comments. So day 1 breakfast, the porridge with prunes. I'm going to give that like 4 out of 10. It was okay. Porridge without milk is okay. Porridge without sugar is a bit bland. Lunch, which was the soup made from Bombay mix, served with beetroot and oat crackers and topped with dry fried nettles. Actually, that was really good. I'm going to give that like 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed that meal, and I think I might make it again or something like it outside of this challenge. Dinner, the barley risotto with wild mushrooms. I think that's only like a 6 out of 10. It really was difficult to make that barley into something that was really tasty. When it's dry, the soup mix looks like an even balance of pulses and grains. Of course, barley swells up a lot more than the other things, and it ends up being mostly barley when it's cooked. It was okay, it filled the hole. The wild mushrooms and hogweed definitely redeemed it. On its own, it wasn't that great. Day 2 breakfast, the stuffed oat pancake. I'm going to give that 5 out of 10. It was okay, it was nice and tasty. There was lots of variety in the texture. Again, those wild mushrooms probably redeemed it. I don't think it was that appealing to look at though. Again, the Bombay mix serving as a kind of weird scrambled egg substitute there was an interesting thing, and I'm going to experiment some more with that. Day 2 lunch, wildflower fritters. 4 out of 10. Concept was great. Execution, very poor. And day 2 dinner, the wild mushroom pie with oat crust and beetroot and sorrel salad. I'm going to give that a 7 out of 10. That was a really tasty meal. The salad was actually really good. The beetroot and sorrel is a great combination, and actually just that little bit of oil that the peppers brought in made a really tasty dressing. The pie itself, again, this chickpea paste that you can make from Bombay mix has got huge potential, I think. But I think if I made this again, I would blind bake the pastry case, and I would cook the sauce to go in it, and I would just pour that in like a custard and let it set. 7 out of 10 for that meal. It was certainly very satisfying. So that's the end of my 2-day ambient vegan challenge. Please let me know in the comments what you thought or what you might have done differently. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.